Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on Episode 8 of Spy Family Season 3. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. Alright, so last we left off, the police have sort of surrounded the bus, and a lot of the families are now aware of things going on, and even the state security services are starting to get involved here. You know, Yuri had to sort of be forcibly restrained lest he get involved in an unsanctioned manner, but, you know, even he's sort of being allowed to do something, you know. Last we left off with him, he was trying to sort of, scope out the exact location, probably as a prelude to getting involved. And now back on the bus, things are getting interesting. You know, some people are being left off the bus if they have to, answer the call of nature or anything like that. But it's very clear that if something goes on, then bad things are going to happen. Unfortunately, I guess, the police have the presence of mind here not to shoot the guy when he goes out of the bus because, you know, he's just the one guy. He has compatriots on the bus, and, you know, if you don't get them all, then some innocent children might be hurt instead. Although that said, you know, I feel like some of the parents getting involved here, they're liable to cause trouble too. I mean, it's understandable in a way that they would want to get involved, but I don't know, man. They are not likely to improve the situation. Now, this is something that's a bit of a interesting interaction. It'll be interesting later, more so. Maybe not in this season, but we'll see. But the idea that the Black Bell's maid and Mr. Henderson are, you know, on first name terms here, that's indicative of something. Oh, wow. You know, I guess it didn't really occur to me that there was a teacher on board too, but like, man, that guy's really doing nothing. I mean, I suppose he can't be doing too much with the situation as it is now, but I feel like maybe there was an opportunity for him to do something a little bit earlier. Oh, well. So as for the hostage negotiations, it seems like it's just down to like the usual sort of delaying tactics where it's like, yeah, no, we are doing what you want us to do, but we're going about it very, very slowly in an attempt to wait you out. And naturally, they've stalled long enough to bring like food and water. The question is, you know, how are they going to go about this? Because naturally, the thing to do is to send in someone who can do something. And when you get down to it, this would be, like, absolutely ideal for someone like Yor, because at the very least, you know, she doesn't need a weapon to beat the brakes off all these people. Now, naturally, yours not present or anything like that. The really nice thing is that Mr. Henderson himself went in. Because, for all the bad things you can say about teachers, and there are a lot of bad things that can be said, Mr. Henderson is at the very least an upstanding and honorable man. And, even in a situation like this, he's willing to surrender himself for the benefit of, another teacher who's suffering. And, that's certainly an honorable thing to do. There's no two ways about it. It is also kind of nice that he is utterly disgusted by the use of bombs. He doesn't know that they're not real. He can't be expected to. But, that's something. And I guess... I guess it is to be expected that he would be impressed by Anya, seemingly not caring about all this. I mean, she knows better than anyone else that the bombs aren't actually real, even if all the other weapons are, but... I guess this goes a way to make up for Anya's flippancy in a previous episode. At least good old Bazooka Bill there has the sense to sort of admonish his fellow classmates. It's like, look, we're being given what are essentially military rations here for sustenance. They're not going to be gourmet meals. And furthermore, when you're being held hostage, you're kind of lucky enough to have food at all. Now, good on Mr. Henderson. He's not exactly in a position to demand much of anything, but at the very least, he's trying to talk down the kidnapper, saying it's like, look, these are innocent children. Do you really want to do all this? And, it gets to a point where, anyone doing this isn't necessarily playing with a full deck here. And the reason being for this guy is that his daughter was killed. A protester who died. We don't exactly know the full story, what's going on there. It's not beyond the pale to maybe suggest that there is something else going on that led to that. But that said, I don't think the appropriate reaction is to take it out on children. I mean, if you really want to bedevil the state for the things they do, then you take it out on the state, not on other children. And, this guy would probably use the excuse that these are the children of the rich and powerful and all that, people with government connections. Yeah, that's true. But they are also children, And I feel like if you really want to do anything productive and meaningful and worthwhile, perhaps the worst thing you can do to your cause is to do harm to children. And I feel like the thing that's worse about all of this is that, his daughter, who we're seeing right now, she wasn't like a little kid. She was old enough to, really develop her own thoughts and opinions on things, to go out and do things with some degree of autonomy. That's not the same as a 6-year-old kid. And while I'm certain what happened to her was reprehensible and wrong, I feel like it's an issue of orders of magnitude here when you're doing something to, what is truly a child? Someone small and incapable of fending for themselves in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, so I guess, in some sense, this progression of things makes, logical sense. His daughter was killed, the state security services are keeping an eye on him for her involvement, therefore the organization sticks up for him. It makes sense. It's not necessarily right, but, you can see how someone would go from point A to point B like that. And most telling of all of this is that Anya is now very clearly aware of it. And Anya isn't exactly what you would call tactful, but she has displayed on several circumstances that she is able to leverage the things she learns about people. And, hopefully that's what's gonna happen here. So it seems like the kidnapping's been going on for the better part of a day, and it seems like everybody's getting ready to move in, which is rather dangerous. Wow, okay, that was fairly brutal. I'm surprised, actually, at, these brutal gunshot wounds, because there was a bit in an earlier season that was sort of censored, I thought to the detriment of the scene. In the first season, as a matter of fact, when Anya has that vision of the future through Bond about, the bomb going off and the war restarting, there was a bit where Lloyd was, dead from the blast, pinned under rubble and bleeding, and, that scene was sort of censored. So I'm frankly surprised that we saw, a guy get shot in the head and, gush blood and stuff like that. Man. So I guess, good on Yuri and the state security services for, neutralizing Bus B in the mildest possible term, but I do find it surprising that Yuri is such a wuss, because, he got shot and he sort of, shrugged it off at the time. I guess that's what adrenaline does for you, but to have to be held down while they extract the bullet, that's, it's kind of unseemly, and I feel like someone who has a sister of such, supernatural fortitude, I feel like some of that would have worn off on him, So the real question is, oh dear, I was gonna say, are the buses communicating, but it seems like, the police are just ripping the Bandit off. It's like, hey guys, we killed all the other people, so, you guys can surrender now if you don't want to get, killed. If you don't want to catch a bullet to the head. So, it seems to me that this is probably not the ideal approach here, because you're making these people desperate. And I feel like desperate people are going to do dangerous and unexpected things, which is really not what you want if your priority is the safety of these children. So I mean, we're even seeing this here. The bus driver is saying, look, we can't just give up, and he's even sort of scheming that, if his compatriots start to, weasel out of this and cower, that he'd rather just blow up the entire bus with a real bomb he has hidden. So, the state security services don't know it, but they've really ratcheted things up in an extremely dangerous way. And more to the point, it seems like the state's getting ready to storm in, which, I mean, I don't know, I get why they would misdirect the hostage takers, but this isn't liable to go well for the children, because I feel like the bus driver there, he really only needs an instant to flip the switch, as it were, and then they all go up in smoke. So as tense and dangerous as the episodes were with, the bomb plot, the dogs and all that, this is almost more so, just because, it's not the country devolving into war, but it's Anya personally, and, all her friends and things like that. Oh dear. Yor doesn't know anything about this, does she? Oh boy. I mean, all she knows is that the field trip is running long, which, I mean, I get why that would be the official talking point, but I don't know, man. I feel like in her position, I would be deeply upset once I found out the truth, Oh dear. So I guess good on you for double checking, talking to other parents and... But on the other hand, man, that's a discrepancy. Hearing that the field trip was running long and no, actually the field trip was canceled. Oh dear. So, Anya has decided to take matters into her own hands, approaching the kidnappers, and she seems to be taking a tactful approach, which is kind of rare, She at least understands that saying, look, I know the secret police are about to storm here, that would only cause trouble. But instead she's decided to lie and say, oh no, I'm actually hungry. Can I have more food? And this kind of gives everyone the wrong impression here, So this is the masterstroke, I guess. Anya is just lying essentially. Or, well, rather, lying by omission. She's sort of telling the truth here, I'm not scared of this little bomb around my neck. Mainly because it's not real, but, in so doing, she also sort of echoes the words of the guy's dead daughter, which she is sort of privy to. So, whether or not she intended to do that deliberately, or what, it seems to be doing something. Now that's interesting, that the guy would just want to kick her off the bus. And I guess it's understandable, The idea that, her being around would sort of sap at his resolve. I guess it's deeply unfortunate for the kidnapper that, there is one person here who knows exactly what he's thinking and how to press his buttons. And even by his own admission, he is kind of wrong about everything, Because Damien and Damien's friends, they have a somewhat noble disposition too, despite being kids, Damien was essentially saying, look, put a bomb on me, or take it off on you, put it on me, and Damien's friends, they were unwilling to back down as well. I mean, I guess it helps that the guy doesn't realize that Anya knows it's a fake bomb, too. Now, against all odds, she also sort of picked the right thing to say, too. Essentially copying Twilight and his motivations. So I guess the question is, what now? The other kidnapper, he realizes that the situation is bad, so he might have to start doing unreasonable things, but... if those unreasonable things involve killing kids, then I feel like, the kidnappers are gonna kind of fall out with one another. So here we go. I guess he's having another big flashback about what constitutes nature and survival of the fittest and all that, the strong picking on the weak and all that. But seeing as how his daughter didn't agree with that, shall we say, I feel like he might have a change of heart on his own. In this case, the strong being the kidnapper pointing the gun at Mr. Henderson and Anya, and I feel like as someone else who is strong, he might well take action into his own hands. So it is nice, in a way, that he's sort of coming around to acceptance, that final stage of grief and all that, but I feel like in a way it's kind of too little too late. Once you already do stuff like this, it really is over, from the perspective of the police and the the state security service, like, something's gotta be done, but I feel like even as a moral person, just an ordinary everyman, like, something's gotta be done too. Like, this sort of thing really can't be tolerated to any degree. And yeah, it is good that he's ultimately surrendering himself and all that, but I mean, his associates here might not be quite as willing to surrender, and they're just as dangerous, if not more so. The only good thing is that maybe his surrender would just wrongfoot everyone to the degree that the security services can handle things quickly. Although, perhaps not, because it seems like, the bus driver was kind of losing it. He really has lost it now. And, I mean, this is like the most dangerous outcome of all, potentially, a runaway bus with students on board. I mean, ultimately, he didn't get very far at all, but, he's still willing to commit horrible acts against innocent people. And, unfortunately for Anya, she was the closest human shield nearby. I guess what's worse is that the state security services, they're willing to just, open fire, regardless of any potential casualties. And, if it weren't for, Becky's maid, then something truly horrible might have happened. It's interesting that she sort of took on the role of Yor, performing not necessarily something superhuman, but, acting decisively. Yeah, well, I guess that's it then. The bad guys have been arrested, and they will hopefully suffer for their malfeasance, and all the students get to go home alive and well. If, maybe a bit shook up by the events of the day. Thinking about it, given that it's like late at night, that's gotta be a long, long day for a kid. How horrible. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.